The deep scanner's ping echoed through the cramped cockpit of my scout vessel Whisper's Edge. Another world, another potential conquest for the hegemony. I exhaled through my gill slits, the familiar bitter taste of recycled air coating my tongue as I adjusted course toward the distant blue-green marble. My name is Kabarna, and I am a scout for the Taravani hegemony, the current holders of galactic dominance, at least in our small corner of the spiral arm. We've held power for 300 cycles now, ever since we crushed the Zephyrian Republic and absorbed their territories. Before them it was the Crystalline Concordat. Before that, the Void Runners. The pattern never changes. Rise, expand, consume, fall. Rise, expand, consume, fall. It's been like this for over 4,000 cycles, ever since the humans vanished. I've read the historical records, studied the fragments that survived the chaos that followed their disappearance. The official histories paint a picture of gradual decline, humanity growing increasingly isolated, their colonies reporting strange plagues, their fleets withdrawing from frontier sectors citing internal restructuring. The Terran Peacekeeping Union had maintained order for nearly 6,000 cycles, longer than any empire since. They didn't rule through fear or overwhelming force, though they possessed both in abundance. They ruled through something my people still struggle to understand: consensus. The humans had somehow convinced dozens of species to work together, to trade fairly, to settle disputes through negotiation rather than war. When I was young, I'd wondered how they managed it. The answer seemed obvious now. They had been the only adults in a galaxy full of children. According to the records, the end came gradually, then all at once. First reports of a virulent plague spreading through human space, something that targeted their specific biology. Then communications began failing. Supply runs to human colonies found empty worlds but no bodies, no signs of struggle, just absence. Their great shipyards fell silent. Their peacekeeping fleet stopped responding to distress calls. Within 50 cycles, every human settlement, every outpost, every patrol ship had simply vanished. The official conclusion was biological extinction, a plague so devastating it had wiped out an entire species across thousands of worlds simultaneously. Some scholars theorized they had fled to unknown regions of space in a desperate exodus, only to perish in the void. The truth, as I was discovering, was far more complex. When they vanished, when we thought they had died, the galaxy had torn itself apart within a generation. The scanner chirped again. I was close enough now to begin detailed scans of the system. 1 star, slightly smaller than standard. 8 planets, 2 in the habitable zone. The inner one showed signs of life, complex atmospheric composition, electromagnetic signatures that suggested technology. My mandibles clicked together in anticipation. The hegemony was always hungry for new worlds, new resources, new populations to either subjugate or conscript. I don't enjoy this work, but it's what I do, what I've always done. My people value service to the state above all else, and I am very good at finding things that don't want to be found. The alternative to service is death, and I am not quite ready for that journey. As I approached the planet's outer atmosphere, something felt wrong. The electromagnetic patterns were familiar, too familiar. I'd seen these frequencies in the archived records from the human territories, but that was impossible. Humans had been extinct for 4 millennia. I activated passive sensors and began recording everything. If this was some kind of archaeological site, the hegemony would want detailed documentation before they decided whether to preserve it or strip mine it for relics. The comm array crackled to life. Rotation schedule for the outer platforms. Jenkins, you're on monitoring duty for the next 6 hours. Derek, I need those mineral extraction reports by... My heart stopped. That was Terran Standard, the old human trade language. I'd learned it years ago as part of my xenolinguistics training, but I'd never expected to hear it spoken by living beings. I fine-tuned the receivers, my claws trembling as I adjusted the frequency bands. More voices flooded through from shipment from colony designation Tango 77 should arrive next cycle. They're reporting good harvests in the agricultural sectors. Defensive grid is operating at full capacity. No incursions detected in the past 18 months. Research Division wants to expand the stealth field generators to cover the outer moons. The energy requirements would be significant, but stealth field generators. My stomach's churned as understanding dawned. This world, this entire system, was hidden. The electromagnetic signatures I'd detected were leaking through microscopic gaps in some kind of massive concealment array. I began scanning other frequency bands, diving deeper into their communications. What I found made my world tilt on its axis. Populations in the Kepler 442 region are exceeding projected growth rates. We may need to establish new colonies in the Wolf sector. Admiral Vasily wants a status report on the Long Sleep project. Are we still on schedule for the next phase of expansion? Monitoring stations report no changes in galactic political structures. The hegemony continues to fight the Altarian coalition over the mineral rights in the Vega system, standard pattern. They'll burn themselves out in another century or two. They were watching. They had been watching all along. The scope of it hit me like a plasma blast to the thorax. The humans hadn't gone extinct. They had withdrawn. Every colony, every outpost, every ship. They had simply left. Vanished from galactic civilization and rebuilt elsewhere in hidden systems behind veils of technology that made them invisible to the rest of us. And there weren't just a few survivors. The communications I was intercepting spoke of hundreds of colonies, thousands of worlds, populations in the trillions. They had been growing, expanding, thriving in secret, while the rest of the galaxy had spent 4,000 cycles tearing itself apart in their absence. Council meeting tomorrow to discuss the Gliese situation. Apparently, the locals are developing warp capability ahead of projections. Should we intervene or let them discover us naturally? Temporal analysis suggests the current galactic conflict cycle will resolve within the next 50 cycles. The hegemony shows the standard expansion fatigue patterns. They'll overextend and collapse, just like the others. They were treating us like children, like predictable, violent children playing with toys while the adults watched from another room. A new transmission cut through the chatter, this one on a priority channel. Alert. Unidentified vessel detected at grid reference Tango 9 Alpha. Passive sensors indicate non-human configuration. Initiating containment protocols. My blood froze. They knew I was here. I should have run, should have engaged my drives and fled back to hegemony space immediately, but I couldn't move. The implications were too vast, too overwhelming. Everything we thought we knew about galactic history was wrong. The humans were still out there, still the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, still watching, still waiting, still maintaining order just from the shadows. A proximity alarm jolted me from my paralysis. 3 contacts, approaching fast. I could see them now on the visual displays. Sleek, angular ships that moved with impossible grace through space. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, and their drive signatures were unlike anything in the database. One of them opened a communication channel. The voice that emerged was calm, professional, almost apologetic. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Marion Thorne of the Terran Defense Corps. You have entered a restricted system. We know you can understand our language, so please respond. I found my voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. This is Scout Kabarna of the Teravani hegemony. I thought your people were extinct. A pause, then, almost sadly, we know what you thought. We know what everyone thinks. It was necessary. Why? The question tore from my throat before I could stop it. Why abandon us? The galaxy has been chaos without you. Endless wars, suffering, entire species wiped out. Because the alternative was worse?" The captain's voice remained steady, but I could hear the weight of millennia in it. "We tried to maintain order through presence, through intervention. But we learned that forced peace is no peace at all. Every species we helped became dependent on us. Every conflict we resolved created two more. We were becoming tyrants without realizing it." "So you just left?" "We withdrew. We chose to let the galaxy find its own way, even if that way was painful, even if it meant watching species destroy themselves rather than grow. Sometimes the only way to truly help is to step back and let others make their own choices." My mind reeled. "But you're still watching, still interfering. We observe, we protect ourselves. Occasionally, when a species shows genuine promise of breaking the cycle, we provide subtle guidance, but we don't rule. We won't rule. Not anymore." The weight of discovery pressed down on me like a collapsing star. I had found the greatest secret in galactic history, 4,000 cycles of assumptions, of grief, of chaos, all built on a lie. Not a malicious lie, perhaps, but a lie nonetheless. The hegemony would want to know. They would mobilize every fleet, marshal every ally, seek out these hidden human worlds with the fervor of zealots discovering their lost gods. I could already see it unfolding in my mind's eye. The war councils, the strategic planning sessions, the massive fleet movements. My people would see the humans as the ultimate prize, the final conquest that would cement their dominance forever. They would tell themselves they were reuniting the galaxy, bringing the humans back to their rightful place as leaders, all while preparing to subjugate them. They would fail, of course. I could see that now with crystalline clarity. The humans had been preparing for this possibility for 4,000 cycles. They had hidden entire populations, developed technologies beyond our comprehension, built defensive networks that spanned multiple star systems. These 3 ships before me were probably just scouts themselves, a tiny fraction of what humanity could bring to bear if threatened. But the hegemony would still try, and they wouldn't be alone. Every empire, every species that had ever chafed under the chaos of the post-human era would join the hunt. The galaxy would unite for the first time in millennia, not in peace, but in a desperate scramble to capture and control the beings who had once kept them all in line. The war would be unlike anything in recorded history, not just because of the scale, but because of what it represented. The final, inevitable collision between the old order and the new, between humanity's patient wisdom and the galaxy's desperate hunger for simple solutions. And when it was over, when the humans had inevitably won or withdrawn even further into the dark, what would be left? What would remain of the species that had spent 4,000 cycles proving they weren't ready for peace? "I understand now," I whispered, the words barely escaping my vocal cords. "You didn't abandon us. You saved us from ourselves." "We tried to save ourselves too." Captain Thorne's voice carried a weight that seemed to echo across the centuries. "Do you know what it's like, Scout Cabarna? To watch species you've helped destroy each other? To see civilizations you've guided into the light tear themselves apart the moment you turn away? We told ourselves we were peacekeepers, but we were just parents. Eternal parents to children who never learned to walk on their own." I thought of my own species, of the Teravani hegemony's proud history of conquest and expansion. We had been one of the minor powers during the human era, content to manage our small cluster of worlds under Terran oversight. When the humans vanished, we had been among the first to claim that we could maintain the peace they had left behind. Within 50 cycles, we were at war with our former ally. "The withdrawal," I said. "It wasn't sudden, was it? You planned it. For centuries." There was no pride in his voice, only a deep, abiding sadness. "We watched the patterns, studied the statistics. Every intervention created dependency. Every peacekeeping mission generated new conflicts. We were becoming the very thing we had sought to prevent, a controlling force that maintained order through the implicit threat of overwhelming power. But the alternative was chaos. Yes, we knew that. We accepted it. The captain paused, and I could hear something that might have been a sigh. Do you know what the hardest part was? Not the logistics of moving trillions of people, not the technological challenges of hiding entire civilizations. It was the knowledge that we were condemning the galaxy to centuries of suffering for the possibility, just the possibility, that it might eventually learn to be better. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 4 millennia of history settling on my shoulders. How many died because of your choice? Billions, tens of billions, entire species wiped out in wars that never would have happened if we had stayed. His voice remained steady, but I could hear the pain beneath it. We count them all. Every casualty, every extinction, every act of genocide that followed our withdrawal. We remember their names when we can find them. We mourn them. And yet you stayed hidden. Because the alternative was worse. Because forced peace is just another form of tyranny. Because sometimes the only way to truly help someone is to let them fail. The conversation felt surreal, like debating philosophy while standing at the edge of a cliff. But I had to ask the question that had been burning in my mind since the moment I realized the truth. What if we never learn? What if the cycle continues forever? Another pause. Longer this time. Then we'll keep watching, keep hoping, keep preparing for the day when the galaxy finally grows tired of war and decides to try something else. The captain's voice softened. We've seen signs, Scout Cabarna, small ones. Species that have learned to resolve conflicts through negotiation, alliances that have lasted longer than expected, technologies shared freely rather than hoarded for advantage. It's slow, but it's happening. The hegemony isn't one of those species. No, not yet. The silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of unspoken truths. I thought of my duty, of the oath I had sworn to serve the state above all else. I thought of my commander, waiting for my report. I thought of the war fleets that would mobilize the moment they learned what I had discovered. Scout Cabarna, Captain Thorne said finally, you have a choice to make. You can return to your people and report what you found. You can trigger the very conflict we've spent millennia trying to avoid. Or you can choose to keep our secret. Return to your ship, file a report that this system is uninhabitable, and let the galaxy continue its natural evolution toward wisdom. I stared at the 3 ships holding position around me, their hulls seeming to shift and blur in the starlight. I thought of my duty to the hegemony, of the oath I had sworn to serve the state above all else. I thought of the promotion I would receive for this discovery, the honors, the recognition. Then I thought of the endless cycles of war, of empires rising and falling in futile attempts to fill the void the humans had left behind. I thought of the peace that had lasted 6,000 cycles and the chaos that had followed. I have to report this, I said finally, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. It's my duty. My people, they have a right to know. We know. The captain's voice was infinitely sad. We're sorry, Scout Cabarna. You seem like a good person, someone who understands the weight of what you've discovered. But we can't let you carry this information back to your people. Not yet. Perhaps in a few more centuries, when your species has matured, when the cycle finally breaks. But not yet. I saw the energy build up on my sensors a moment before the weapons fired, not the crude disruptor beams or plasma cannons I was familiar with, but something far more advanced. Beams of coherent energy that cut through my ship's shields like they weren't even there. The hull breach was instantaneous. Emergency klaxons screamed for the few seconds it took for the atmosphere to vent into space. I had just enough time to see the tactical display showing my ship's critical systems failing in cascade before the secondary explosion tore through the bridge. There was a moment of searing heat, then cold, then nothing. The Whisper's edge became another piece of debris in the void, its destruction so complete that within hours automated systems would sweep up the remains. Back in hegemony space, my handlers would wait for a report that would never come. Eventually, they would mark me as missing in action and send another scout to investigate the same sector. That scout would find nothing but empty space. Somewhere in the vast darkness beyond, humanity continued its patient vigil, waiting for the galaxy to grow wise enough to deserve their return. The cycle would continue as it always had. But someday, it would finally break, and the humans would be there when it did. Many thanks to channel member Kyle Garber for helping to make this video possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.